Our next Meisner Dam deputation regarding the repairs, Mr. Alan McEwen, Port Dover Power and Sail Squadron. Alan, 10 minutes and a 1-minute warning. Welcome.
Thanks, Chair, Mayor Luke, council members. We got the slides, good. We wanted to get involved with this, and Power and Sail Squadron, our mandate is primarily promoting safe boating through education. And we have a number of concerns about what would happen to the ability and to navigate and the safety of navigation if that dam was taken out. So, as I said a minute ago, our core role as a nonprofit is to promote safe navigation and instruct boating courses for recreational boaters. We don't have anything to do with commercial. And we have been in this county for 69 years, and in fact, we're the second squadron in the national organization. So we've had a bit of experience in Port Dover, and like I said before, we are going to support the repair of that dam. We have a number of concerns. One, the right to navigate, and that river complex has been navigated by both commercial and recreational vessels since settlement, and obviously by our indigenous peoples for thousands of years back before that. And the other one is the safety of navigation. So, what we want to discuss first of all, and it's something that never has seemed to come up, is, and a lot of people don't seem to know it, that the common law of this country protects the right of the public to navigate. We have free right to navigate in any navigable waters. It's federal law and can only be changed by Parliament. So, somebody could argue that if that dam was to be taken out and it silted in, you are interfering with public's right to navigate, and you would have to dredge. And as Marion's talked about that, and like I say, we're only sticking to the navigation portions of this. I've decided to provide you with the Act. It's called Navigation Protection Act, and it was recently changed in the Harper government to make it a little easier to construct works like bridges and dams. Kind of ironic in this case, and I've given you the website. Our primary focus is safety, one of which is logs and other debris floating down the river if the dam were removed, especially after a severe storm. And Marion's talked about that already today. If that dam wasn't in place, you would have had quite a slug of water and probably trees and everything but the kitchen sink, perhaps, going down that river. And I was down this morning and I watched a chunk of lumber or log at least that long just under the surface floating down the Lynn River there. If somebody had hit that, it could range from mild damage to more severe damage to their vessel. And if you had a couple of boats in the channel and they're both trying to miss that log, it might have got interesting. Fortunately, there was nobody around. If the dam was removed and we had a sudden storm, and we can get them, like I said last night, you could have a lot of damage done to dockage on that river complex. The siltation is a very big concern. It's very shallow in there. And I have a chartlet here for you in a moment to show you how shallow it is. And like I say, if it was removed, it could result in the need to dredge both the Lynn River, Black Creek, and Harbor, depending on the amount of siltation. And one really good storm just might do it if that dam wasn't there. So, where's the point? Oh, there's a laser. There's a small excerpt of a nautical chart. Silver Lake, the dam, Lynn River, and at the distance we are here, unfortunately, on is Black Creek. We, at datum, which is the level of water as reference for depths on a nautical chart, we are 1 meter or less in this section in here. We're lucky right now, the lake level is fairly high, and the lake level does influence the water heights in there. But that's pretty shallow, and 1 meter won't take long to fill in a good storm. There's about 2 meters there at Datum, and you'll be able to see this better on your own screen. There's the yacht club in there. Marion talked before about the two rivers coming together. Most of the time, if you have two rivers coming together, you've got a pretty good sandbar form. And then, like I say, if all that sediment got loose, got wild on you, you could have the entire harbor at a stage where you may have to dredge it. So, like I said, we are sticking strictly to the navigational aspects. Others have talked about economics and other aspects of that. But, so to conclude, we support the repair of the Meisner Dam for safe boating reasons and, of course, the public's right to navigate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. Much appreciated. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you again. Take your seat, and we'd need a motion to receive the deputation as information. Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Oliver. Those in favor, and that is carried. And moving on to our last deputation regarding Meisner Dam, and this is Adam Veery from the Port Dover Board of Trade, and I'm sure you've heard me say before, 10 minutes and a 1-minute warning. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to preempt, I think, a little bit just the unfortunate letter that was sent out today. Well, unfortunate from our point of view, from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, because I realized that reading that letter, that preempts any more discussion on repairing the dam, if I'm correct. I just want to say that the Board of Trade is asking that regardless of how that letter affects things or the discussion that follows that Council stay committed to investigating all available options to restore Silver Lake and repair the dam. If a solution is not available to this Council, my hope is that we'll bump it ahead to the next one, that there won't be a concluded issue today because of that letter. To the best of my knowledge and based on the other deputations we've heard, the silt issue does pose a potential threat to Port Dover's long-standing marine industries as well as the tourism industry. There are also several property owners, as you've heard, affected by this matter. And on top of these financial concerns, there's still a prevalent community desire to see Silver Lake restored for quality of life reasons. I understand that the issue of Silver Lake and the dam has become long and exhausting and certainly more costly than initially anticipated. And on behalf of the Board of Trade and our membership and the members of the community who want to see Silver Lake restored, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your patience and the effort and the commitment and leadership that you've shown in this process all along. And I want to let you know that we've been in touch with Mr. Barrett's office already on this matter, and we're looking to hope for him to show some leadership here with the new government, because for the first time since this issue's been in place, we now have a sitting MP that's in the sitting government. So I guess I want to just pass it along that we appreciate this effort and how frustrating this has become, but we hope that you'll continue to show the leadership that you've shown so far in order to bring this to a positive conclusion at some point. That's it.
Thank you very much, Adam. Any questions from committee members?
Yes, Dr.
Councillor Brunn.
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, and I should have asked this to the other members. Have all these people had a chance to review the Stantec report that was provided to council? Is that, it goes back, but I mean, it's a detailed report, and I'm just wondering if everybody had have you looked at that, Adam?
Not recently. Like when it first was done, yeah, the Board of Trade looked at it, but honestly, not in preparation for today, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Councillor Wells?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd just like to thank the President of the Port Dover Board of Trade for his very positive comments that he made here this evening.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Seeing none, Adam, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
And we need a motion to receive the deputation as information. Councillor Height moves and Councillor Geisen seconds. Those in favor, that is carried. Which brings us to our staff report, PW 1839. This is the award of contract PWE 18-39, Meisner Dam Rehabilitation. And I believe Lee Robinson will be delivering this report. Lee.
Through the chairman to council, before you is the award report for the Meisner Dam rehabilitation. Before I get into a lot of detail on the report, I wanted to draw council's attention to the letter that was received late yesterday from the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. They are requesting through this letter that Norfolk County do 3 items with regards to the sediments that are currently existing in Silver Lake in the proximity of the dam. Based on the receipt of this letter, I would recommend at this point that we defer this report until next Tuesday at council, when we'll be able to respond to the letter and provide council with all of the information. We will be going back through and discussing all of these matters with the engineer that we have hired for this. We believe that the majority of these items have already been addressed through the plans, but before council is able to make a decision, we'd like to provide council with all the full and complete information. So I'd be happy to answer any questions with respect to the report that's before you tonight, but I would recommend that we wait until next Tuesday to provide the final resolution. That being said, we will have that information to council for next Tuesday so that you'll be able to make an informed decision, and that will not have any impact on the schedule, because if this had been approved here this evening, it would still be going to council next week to be ratified, so it will not have any delay. By deferring it by 1 week, it will not have any delay. With regards to the construction reports, we're very pleased that we received 5 bids. With respect to this project, you'll also note that with regards to this, all of the pricing came in extremely close. We're very, very pleased with how this turned out. Although, unfortunately, this is a budget amendment, council will recall that really when the project was first started and identified, it was many years ago, nobody really at that point had an idea of what the cost estimate would be. I'm going to say a number was put more appropriately in as a placeholder. Staff brought forward information earlier this year that indicated that we were expecting to see the contracts come in at approximately 1.8 million. We're very pleased to see that it's actually come in slightly less than that number. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
I am looking for questions only. You can save your comments until there is a motion on the floor. So I have Councillor, did I see your hand, Councillor Luke, or Councillor Wells?
Mr. Chair, my question is to Ms. Robinson. Were you surprised when you received this letter?
Through the chairman to council, yes, we were.
No advance warning that it was becoming, or?
Nothing.
And by granting you this 1 week extension to review the letter and come back with some kind of response. Am I correct on that?
Through the chairman to council, what we're recommending is that you simply defer it 1 week.
Right.
It will give us an opportunity to put a cost estimate to what the ministry is actually requesting. Nothing in the ministry letter is preventing us from proceeding with the project, but it will have a cost implication. And if it's a $25,000 cost implication or $25 million cost implication, council should have that information before they make a final decision.
And my last question, Mr. Chair, again to Ms. Robinson. For the people who are here, this is not a measure where we are trying to sweep it under the rug because they are here. This is something that we should do so that we have more information to make an informed decision.
Through the chairman to council, this is something that I received yesterday. The Norfolk County received this via email yesterday afternoon at about 3:30. We had no intention I had no intention of being here speaking to you about this evening. I was as surprised as everybody else was to receive this. Again, there's nothing in the ministry letter that's prohibiting us from going ahead. They're asking us to do certain things. To undertake those things, it does have a cost implication. I do not feel that it's appropriate for council to make a decision without actually knowing the financial ramifications of that. We can certainly have that information for council for next Tuesday, so that you can make a fully informed decision.
So you'll come with costs at our next meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Height, then Mayor Luke.
Thank you, Chairman Black, and through you to Public Works. Ms. Robinson, it says in this letter that we need to retain a qualified person to complete the sediment management plan by Friday, July 16th. And that's just retention. That's not to actually do the plan?
That is correct. They would like confirmation from Norfolk County that we have retained a qualified person.
And you think you can do that by next Tuesday, or next Tuesday you'll tell us roughly what it costs and then we move on from there?
That is correct. We will have the costs here for next Tuesday, and if council chooses to proceed, that still gives us plenty of time to meet the ministry deadline to have that qualified person in place.
Okay, have we applied for any WECI funding for any of this project?
Through the chairman, I do not believe that at this time we have.
No, then, I guess, for Public Works, how come we're not passing this over to the Conservation Authority since they're the experts in dams? Why are we doing it as Norfolk County? They apply for funding for these water control structures, and we've received quite a bit in the last few years.
Through the chairman to council, I'm not sure that unfortunately I'm going to be able to answer your question. The decision that we should proceed with this dam was made by council prior to my arriving here at Norfolk County. The Conservation Authority has certainly been active working with the structures that they are responsible for looking after. The direction was given to staff that we were to undertake this process. I can't speak to the reasons why council directed staff to do that, but I know that the Conservation Authority has most certainly been active with the dams that they own, doing their work. We've in fact been working with them quite actively recently to help them address some of their issues with their dams as well.
Okay, thank you for that. My last question, it took us a while. I know we didn't get the engineer's report until after we discussed this a few years ago on council, but is this the same engineer that did my bridge in Long Point, that inspected it?
No.
No? Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Luke?
Well, Mr. Chair, just a question for Lee, and appreciate that you're giving us the opportunity to bring this letter into tonight's discussion, and I certainly will have some comments about this when the motion is on the floor. Through you to Lee Robinson. Lee, it would seem on one hand that you're making sense by asking us to defer this 1 week. Apologize for my back to you. But there's something telling me here that we have followed a procedure. After 9 long years, we have in front of us this evening the bids from the RFP. We have a good contract price, in my opinion, as you do as well. And you're telling me that we could go ahead and approve this tonight. Is the danger of that, approving this tonight to secure Rankin Construction, Inc., at this price, is the risk through the chair to you that if we approve this tonight without investigating, well, I'll use my proper language, the terms of this letter, are you saying that the risk might be that what we find out here would possibly cause this report not to be perhaps approved?
Through the chairman to council, I'm going to respectfully not answer your question. However, what I am going to say is what I am actually not saying, I'm not talking about the risk. What I'm saying is there's no harm in waiting until next week to make the decision. Whatever decision council makes tonight isn't actually official until next Tuesday night anyway. So whatever you recommended tonight would still need to go forward to next Tuesday night. What I'm saying is that if you just wait till next Tuesday night to make the decision, it would be final next Tuesday night. There would be no delay whatsoever, and you would have all of the information available to make that decision. So there's no harm in waiting, there's no delay. The end result is you're still going to be able to say yay or nay on the exact same day on the calendar that you would have whether or not you'd made the decision this evening.
Mr. Chair, I know this is question period, but that's telling me also that there's no harm in making the decision tonight because it is here, the deputations are here, a large portion of the public is here, and certainly whatever comes forward as a result of staff's investigation on this letter in the next 7 days, still, the decision tonight would have to be ratified by council anyhow. The decision tonight is only committee, so I am failing to see where this council needs to delay this decision to engage this contract, because it's not final to next week anyhow. So I'm not convinced that by delaying this report and decision tonight gives us any advantage in any way to anything.
Through the chairman to council, I'm not really sure how to respond to that, other than it has been my experience that if we sort of approve something in theory without having a cost estimate associated to it, sometimes our prices get driven up when we actually go to get that stuff priced out, because it's sort of that we're between a rock and a hard place at this point. I would let our CAO respond to potentially any contractual issues with basically saying, doing that this evening, knowing that we don't have all of the information. So I will pass it over to him, because you're sort of out of my legal expertise at this point.
David, would you like to respond?
Oh, so much better. Well, with respect, both Ms. Robinson and His Worship are correct. You could have a debate on the merits this evening, and to be clear to the public, Council, these human beings meet every week. This is the week when they sit as a committee, which means they can't bind themselves. We have a system, because we don't have a Senate or another way to sort of second guess. These human beings are given ideas and concepts this week, and then the second week they meet as a council and they can bind themselves. They can make formal decisions. So anything decided tonight isn't formal until it's ratified by these human beings this time next week. Accordingly, there's no capacity to make anything final tonight, just to be clear. That being said, for the 14 months I've had the pleasure of being employed here, I have not seen this council rush in to any decision. We do not know, we weren't able to determine, we've had, not 24, now we've had 24 hours with the document, but we weren't able to determine a sort of a costing in the less than a day we had. I understand from Ms. Robinson, she feels confident we'll be able to have it for next Tuesday. Certainly though, going forward on a decision, I have no way of being able to tell you whether these three items they're probably not going to come to $100. We're probably talking about something well in excess of that. And it would appear from the letter that they're necessary and that they will follow the main decision. So out of an abundance of caution, I support Ms. Robinson's position. But His Worship is absolutely correct that you can have your debate this evening. You do have the public who are here and interested and clearly would like to hear some of that. It is open to you to have some debate and then still bring a motion to defer the decision until next week, which I think is the best of both worlds. That allows everyone to hear where everyone stands, lets you flesh out the issue this evening, less this letter, and nevertheless not make a decision, indicate one way or the other until you have all of the facts this time next week. That might be a best way to, wisdom of Solomon, sort of split the difference. That would be my suggestion at this time if I could. But you're free to go either way.
Oh, Mayor Luke, what I'm hearing is if you wanted to put a motion on the floor to support the recommendation in the report, that you could, which would allow the debate to occur, and then after that, there could be a further deferral. Let me ask the clerk, is that correct? So we could proceed that way to allow debate to occur and still put the deferral on. I mean, the deferral could be defeated. Okay, so, all right, we've got Councillor Sonnenberg, and then Brunton.
My question's been answered. Thank you.
Then Councillor Brunton.
Thank you, Chairman Black. My question through you is to Lee. Lee, I know through this whole process that's been ongoing some time, you've dealt with the Elmer office, I know. But I guess my question is, this Mr. O'Connor that signed this letter, have you ever dealt with him in the past or during the leading up to calling our tender?
Through the chairman to council, Mr. O'Connor works for the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change.
Okay.
The office in Elmer is the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry.
Okay.
And Mr. O'Connor is known to county staff. He's a senior environmental officer in the Norfolk County area. And although we have not been involved with him with respect to the dam, we have most certainly been involved with him with many other issues that the MOECC oversees in Norfolk County.
So in the process of dealing with this whole project, though, have you dealt with the Ministry of the Environment, or just M&R?
Through the chairman, the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change is not involved in this process. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry is the overseeing group for this one. So all of our contact has been through the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry.
So this is new then, this gentleman requesting these three, I'll use it, three requests. Is it new, or is it, you mentioned earlier in your discussions with council here that you feel these issues have been addressed. Am I correct?
Through the chairman to council, there were sediment reports done at the very beginning when all of this work had started. So sediment is something we've absolutely been addressing. It's a matter of making sure that we are addressing all of the items in the way that the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change wishes to have them addressed, as well as the way that the MNRF wishes to have them addressed. And because we just received this yesterday, we just need to put some numbers to that.
Thank you.
So we absolutely expected that there would be sediment in Silver Lake in front of the dam.
Thank you.
Councillor Wells, then Luke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm going to put a motion on the floor, if with your permission.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
I'm going to move that this item be deferred until next week, at which time we will have all the information necessary to make an informed and intelligent decision. And all the debate that we will have next week will be based on the information that we are going to be provided, rather than guessing.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Height, and clerk tells me this is debatable. Mayor Luke?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm going to reluctantly support my colleague's motion. I do want to comment on this letter, if I may.
I think that's in order, yes.
I guess it's part of the discussion and
Yeah.
part of, I guess, the main reason why we're not dealing with the report. Mr. Chair, this was handed to me at 9:37 this morning by our CAO. It was received last night by our staff at 3:30. Now, I know that many people in the public, Mr. Chair, wonder why this has taken 9 years to get from point A to point B. So in less than 24 hours of council dealing with, engaging possibly the contractor to repair a dam we've been working on for 9 years, MOECC suddenly shows up. Mr. Chair, if Mr. Cribbs had come into my office this morning and said, I've got a letter here that says your wife is pregnant, I wouldn't have been more surprised than getting this. Nothing personal, Mr. Cribbs, sorry.
I hope she isn't.
If I may, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has become aware of the pending remediation of the Meisner Dam in Port Dover. Oh, really? They've become aware of it yesterday, did they? I wonder how they became aware of that. I wonder if there's a game being played here by somebody. An end run at the last minute, I don't know. You know, their concern, Mr. Chair, is related to the characterization and the management of contaminated sediment in Silver Lake above the dam, as well as controlling sediment should the repair of the dam take place. Now, where was MOECC in 2010 when you will recall, some of you folks, that an engineer was hired to do the structural analysis of the dam? A large storm came and wiped away the silt traps, and below the boathouses were filled right to the top with silt, and the county hired somebody for several $100,000. They did a good job to dig it out, Mr. Chair. Where was MOECC when that contaminated soil was dug out in Trump? It wasn't dumped back into Silver Lake. And they're telling me in this letter here that if we're going to, take some silt out of Silver Lake, we got to find a place that's properly licensed to accept it. Are you telling me, Mr. Chair, that MOCC has become aware that Norfolk County is going to rehabilitate a dam? Oh, really? They admit in the letter they knew about it. They looked at the analysis of the 2010 core samples taken out of Silver Lake that the data showed there was contamination. I'd like to pay Mr. O'Connor a personal visit. I think I'll take Marion Gadsby with me. The mandate of MNRCC and, MOECC and MNRFF, whatever, their mandates are wonderful. I don't have any problem with why they exist, but I'll tell you, the way they operate should be ashamed of themselves. I promised I wasn't going to lose my cool here this afternoon. I did this morning. This is not an acceptable way to do business. This is insane what they have done to this county. So I called my MPP's office. I've set up a meeting. I'm hoping that Mr. Barrett is able, with some of his connections up above, can assist this county in doing things that need to be done and not be playing games with different ministries on how to throw your weight around and send off an email at the midnight hour telling us they're aware suddenly that we're going to repair a dam. The contamination in the soil and any dredging of the lake, if the dam eventually gets repaired, then we'll deal with that issue head on in the meantime. But I better be quiet. Thank you.
Well, Mayor Luke, this isn't the first time Norfolk County's been pig in the middle between MOE and MNRF. We've had other situations, and you're right, it isn't fair. But going to Councillor Oliver.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to support the deferral. I understand where the mayor was coming from about possibly recommending tonight and next week ratifying, and I was okay with that too. But I think the deferral is cleaner. It is what Ms. Robinson is suggesting. Just as she indicated, staff will have a few days to look back in the file, which we know is a thick one, and look at all of our correspondence, look at the results of the assessments that we did a number of years ago. We as councillors, and I for sure am going to do the same thing over the next week, because I recall so clearly when we did the sediment sampling and the results of the sampling and what we were told we could do with the sediments at that time. I'm equally shocked and surprised that we got this letter. So, and I was somewhat reassured by what Lee said when she said it's her professional opinion that we've done a majority of what they're asking for in this letter, and I agree with that completely. So I think it's harmless for us to allow the deferral, take a deep breath, and we'll all do our homework between now and next Tuesday, and hopefully be able to go ahead and make our decision to proceed next week as we would have tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Anything further? Those in favor of the deferral, show of hands, and that looks like everyone. Thank you very much. We'll take a 2-minute recess so the members of the gallery can disperse and we'll just have a small break for 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Sorry to interrupt your social time, council, but we need to get back to business, so if you could take your seats, please, and thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, ready? Okay, we're going to go back to page 37, this is item 6A, and it's staff report FS 1829, and this is regarding donations and taxable receipts, policy revisions, and I guess I'm looking to James Johnson for some, Amy, yep, for some sage advice to council. Go ahead, Amy.
So thank you through Chairman Black to the mayor and members of council. The donation and taxable receipt policy has not been revised since 2002. Since that time, there have been a number of changes in the Canada Revenue Agency regulations and to staff's preferred business practicing for issuing receipts. Changes to the CRA regulations include the addition of the concept of split receipting and more strict rules and regulations on third-party fundraising. Updates to the preferred best practice recommendations from staff include the addition of a minimum donation of $20 to receive an official tax receipt and a minimum donation in kind of $100 to receive an official tax receipt. It is also the recommendation of staff to allow qualified employees to appraise donations in kind with an estimated value of $1,000 or less. And lastly, staff are recommending that all the donation receipts be issued by financial services. The goal of the update is to get Norfolk County compliant with current legislation and to set Norfolk County up to effectively and efficiently accept donations in a manner that's conducive to encouraging future county-led initiatives.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from committee members of staff? I don't see any hands going up, so is there someone like to move the recommendation in the report? Councillor Oliver moves the recommendation in the report, and did I see another hand for a seconder? Councillor Wells, is there any comments on this? Seeing none, those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next report, and that is our chief, what's that?
I'll present for you.
Oh, okay. This is the staff report, CAO 1824, the establishment of a Recreation Facilities Advisory Board. It's RFAB, and Stephanie, if you please.
Through the chairman to committee. This report is to essentially fulfill council's direction in establishing a Recreation Facilities Advisory Board. And I just want to mention that while we are calling it a board, it is technically a committee of council, and this group will evolve over time to assist and advise council upon the project. Initially, the group will be involved in developing aspects of fundraising, such as donor recognition initiatives, and they will also serve as the primary body to receive input and/or hear deputations from the public respecting the project Norplex. As members of council have expressed a desire to fulfill positions prior to the summer break, we are looking for 5 citizen positions, and that advertisement will come out this week. And the deadline for applications is July 4th at 4 p.m. A closed session report to council will come following that, respecting the appointment recommendations. And the initial appointments will be for a 1-year term to allow the incoming council an opportunity to review the board and its work early on in their term of office. And with that, I will answer questions of the committee.
Committee members, any questions of Stephanie in regards to the reports? Councillor Geisens, then Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the, is this going to be in the paper, or where are they going to? There may be some people, I know there's some in my ward have said that they would be interested and wanted to know when this was going to happen and where would they find out. So can somebody put that out there for us, or can you let me know just what they have to do?
Through the chairman to Councillor Geisens, that's a great question. The advertising will go through our coordinated ads that we put out, and that'll come out essentially tomorrow, and it's available online. So it's an application that they would do for any committee of council. And we receive them in council services, we prepare a report, and it goes from there.
So that's on the website and in the newspapers. And which newspapers? Simcoe Reformer, to the Del, and the Dover Maple Leaf? Okay, and Councillor Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly support this and will be supporting the recommendation. I have one question, though, and one brief comment. And my question first, and it's on page 52 of our agenda, page 2 of the terms of reference, draft terms of reference. The section under schedule and location of meetings, it makes reference to the chair of this group, and yet there's nothing in the terms of reference, unless I missed it, that identifies how a chair would be selected or created. So are we going to leave that up to them, or is that something that should have been included in here?
Through the chairman to Councillor Oliver, we would do, the clerk or the recording secretary of the committee would call the meeting to order like in any new committee, and then there would be nominations for a chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Further?
that's my question answered. Thank you for
Okay,
that. My comment, if I may?
What comments are supposed to be for the motion?
Okay,
So,
thank you.
If you want to put the motion on the floor, then you can comment.
No, I'll wait, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Brunton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question, like if we move along this route, will there be at some point a committee also established for the building of the complex? This committee really isn't involved in the actual, and by that I mean people that might be more technically inclined to assist with the building of the project?
David?
Well, my question.
Council, of course, is the final decision-making body for all things by this corporation. And if in the future, as we move this project along, it is your preference and your wisdom to establish such a body, we can do so. That being said, at this point in time, I don't see any reason to foresee that being an appropriate use of the public, so much as those will be a mixture of professional design elements and something one would anticipate, at least a portion of that coming from your staff. The decision as to what should be included, of course, emanates from council. So at this point in time, that isn't part of our concept of how we're proceeding, but council certainly has the right to establish such a body. Even if it wanted to, though, at this point in time, we're 6, 7, 8 months premature. So we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, I guess my question is these terms of reference don't refer to that part of it. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, Mayor Luke?
Respond if I may, and you know, I can only tell you my thoughts here, but certainly I don't believe that an advisory committee in any way, shape, or form is going to design a building of this magnitude. If you look and go and research, as I have some of the recreational multi-complexes that are built around the province, pretty well all of them hire a consultant, or whether you want to call it a procurement company, whether you want to call it an architect firm that designs these types of buildings, that's something we're going to have to spend some money. That's not the work for an advisory committee. No. You know, it's, you know, I can't really say, having never been involved in planning multi-recreational facility, I can't really tell you all the steps, but I know one thing. It's going to be a lot of work, and I think the advisory committee can do some of that legwork and report to council and assist staff, but design the building, I don't know. We don't know how to do that.
It's a little much to ask, I think.
We're not going to do that. That's too much to ask.
So, Councillor Oliver, back to you if you want to move the recommendation and the report and then make your comments?
I will do so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And the seconder on that would be Councillor Geisens. Back to you, Councillor Oliver.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. The only other brief comment I was going to make is in the scope of committee part of the terms of reference on page 51, and the deputy clerk referenced this when she said that this advisory board would be the primary body to receive deputations and input from the public, and I see it right there, receive input from the public on behalf of council. I guess my only word of advice, and unfortunately I won't be around probably for this committee once they start to do their work very much, is I think it's important for council to continue to receive input directly from our citizens all across the county on this, rather than deferring it too much to an advisory body, which will be primarily made up of non-councillors. So I guess that's just a word of caution I want to put out there to my colleagues. I'm not suggesting a change in wording at this point, but I think as long as everybody's aware, it's council that ultimately needs to hear from its constituents. Thanks. But I do support this and happy to move it.
Anything further? Any further comments on Councillor Oliver's motion? Seeing none, those in favor and opposed, carried. Moving on to the next staff report. It's the 2017 accounting adjustments, FS 1832. And James, I would think this would be up your alley. Needs a smart person to figure this one out.
Then you don't need me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So through Chairman Black to the Mr. Mayor and County Council, the report before you deals with accounting adjustments dating back to 2001. As a result of these adjustments, Norfolk has fulfilled one of its audit requirements in that this issue has now been removed from audit recommendations. There have been many changes and steps taken within the Finance Division over the last 3 to 5 years in order to better analyze and to make decisions regarding our financial stability, including being able to concentrate on cleaning up some balance sheet issues before you today. Most of the adjustments are attributed to 17 years of Haldimand-Norfolk cost-sharing arbitration related to social services, public health, and social housing. Some adjustments are related to Haldimand-Norfolk region receivables set up from when Norfolk County amalgamated. While this is a significant amount, please note that these amounts represent a 17-year period and there is no cash transactions as a result of these adjustments. Some of the amounts that are being written off, you could easily stick your head in the sand and leave them on the balance sheet. However, the foundation has been set to enable the mandate of this Finance Division to be accountable, transparent, and not to make decisions that will haunt us later. What I mean by foundation is several years ago, we completed 3 year ends in a matter of 2 years. 2015, we established a new financial system, and recently job duties have been redefined from a data entry focus to an analytical focus. Please note that this is a 2017 entry. In 2018, we are working on the reverse of the adjustments where we're actually looking into unclaimed deposits as a revenue stream. Most recently, with the help of Amy Fanning, my colleague behind me, we've been able to settle on a receivable from Haldimand relating to an investment from the region days. And this week, we will be receiving a check from Haldimand County for approximately $1 million. Also, we've been able to reconcile the Health and Social Services reconciliations for 2017, and it's unprecedented that we're able to reconcile these amounts within 6 months of year end. If there's any questions related to this report, I'd be happy to answer them.
And committee members, Councillor Oliver.
Mine is just a quick one, Mr. Chair. James, as I read through this report and even your preliminary comments talked about it not being, if you like, a real money transaction report, and yet you said we're going to be receiving an actual check. This is for real dollars, not virtual dollars from the County of Haldimand?
Yes.
Bitcoin? I hope he's nodding and not shaking because...
Okay. Anything further on this? Do we have a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Oliver, seconded by Mayor Luke. Any further discussion, comments? Seeing none, those in favor, that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to our next staff report. Yeah, did I forget something?
If I may, just one question. What are you doing with the $1 million when you get it? Where's it going?
Where's the $1 million going?
Where are you going to deposit that
James?
check? Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't ask that.
I thought I got away with no questions. Through the chair to Councillor Brunton. So it was 678,000 of that $1 million actually we had set up as a receivable, so we won't get that as revenue. However, the interest portion of that, at the time that I guess the decisions made at the time of amalgamation, we didn't book any interest because we were being conservative. I assume we were being conservative at the time. We didn't want to book too much investment income in case it didn't come to fruition. So that it's approximately 550,000. We'll bring that into investment income for 2018.
Okay, now we're on to, good question, that's a good question. The award of the contract of PW 1840, the Waterford wastewater treatment plant upgrades. And Lee, I would imagine this is yours.
Through the chairman to council, before you is the award of the contract for the Waterford wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Council will recall that this one was before us previously, and at that time, we significantly exceeded the budget, and I had made some recommendations, and we were hopeful that we would be able to do some adjustments to sort of the servicing level or to some of the project, and we'd be able to reduce the cost. We are thrilled that it has actually come in approximately $750,000 less than we had estimated with the revised scope of work that we had issued it for. We are we feel that this is very good value. You'll note that we had 7 different contractors submit bids, and the prices are exceptionally close, which means that we've received excellent value for this. This work is required by the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, as well as this work will allow development works to proceed in the Waterford area, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And I'm imagining that Councillor Sonnenberg probably doesn't have any questions and would like to move the motion, but go ahead.
I have a question first. Lee, submerged attached growth reactor is something relatively new. It says the process has few Ontario installations. Is there a reason for the few installations? Is it not as good? For starters.
Through the chairman to council. No, it's a newer type of technology, and it only has certain applications. There aren't that many existing systems in Norfolk County that are able to, or in Ontario or even Canada, that are able to actually implement this technology. It has been implemented quite successfully in a variety of places in the United States. But the combined factors of the existing lagoon system in Waterford, the amount of land that we own, et cetera, it made it an ideal candidate for this.
Okay.
And it was actually cheaper than some of the other alternatives.
So the old lagoon system is working out for us in the long run?
Through the chairman to council, yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you, through you to Lee, could you give us your best timeline, start, finish here? I know it'll probably start up this summer, later this summer. Do you have a rough idea? I think you told us 18 months before, but I just wondered, because I know the public will be asking us, because this has been a long time coming. So could you just quickly tell us on the timeline?
Start, finish dates?
Please.
Through the chairman to council, I don't believe I can provide very specific dates at this time, but it's an approximate 18-month construction window till the time that it's commissioned. We know that there is some great development interest in this. We have committed to working with those developers so that effectively the day this facility is commissioned, they'll be able to flush toilets in new development so that we're not going to have any further delays with the development community. Once this is awarded at council, they'll be able to start proceeding with doing a lot of their things so that we can all come together at the same day when this is commissioned.
Okay. Yep.
I'm doing the math while I'm listening. I'm thinking probably early in 2020.
Through the chairman, provided that the contractor is able to proceed immediately.
Thank
yes.
you.
Okay. Councillor Sonnenberg, are you interested in moving this recommendation?
Yes, I am. This has been a long time coming. Obviously, there's a lot of developers out there waiting to get some shovels in the ground, and this is good news. So I'll move the recommendation in the report.
And seconder, Councillor Brunton, second? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I see in the report, and I through you to Lee, if I may. Lee said there was a lot of consultation with the Ministry of the Environment, and you've answered the question to Councillor Sonnenberg. I guess my question is, like, is there a chance that the ministry will give us more funding possibly because of this technology? Is that a fair question? I know you were asking